In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make this wrought iron gate. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Game Terrain Engineering. My voice is back, sort of, but the rest of my family is still a little sick. You may hear some noises upstairs because the youngest is finally over his cold and he's a little rambunctious tonight, so I apologize for the noise if you hear anything coming from upstairs. This week, I had plans to show you a very special project. I know I promised that in the last episode, and I'm almost done with it, but here's what happened. I have a 3D printer, and if you've been watching some of my episodes, you've most likely heard it running in the background. Well, about 2 weekends ago, we had snow in Atlanta. Not just an inch or two like the weathermen predicted. We had heavy snow. My aunt and uncle in Kennesaw, 13 inches. It got cold, really cold in Atlanta. So here's what it turns out. And I sort of knew this, but I just wasn't thinking. Here in the basement, it gets very cold. And a 3D printer, you're not really supposed to run a 3D printer in super cold weather. If the plastic that is extruding, it's being melted and forced out of a nozzle, if the plastic cools too quickly, it will clog up the nozzle and more plastic will be pushed out and it has nowhere to go, so it just basically builds up and builds up. I'm going to include a picture right here of my 3D printer. Basically, I usually leave my 3D printer running and go away and come back a few hours, check on it. Well, this time I went away for about an hour and I came back and I had about a golf ball size piece of plastic that had hardened around not just the nozzle, but around some of the wiring. I thought I was going to be like one of these people who had this rare problem. Turns out it's a big problem. And a lot of people said, hey, it's happened to me, it's happened to me, it's happened to me. They gave me ideas on how to fix it. Heat up a soldering iron, try to melt the plastic. Basically what happened was the wires got severed, so it can't heat up. So I have to use alternative methods to try and melt that plastic. So I did have a soldering iron that I tried to, cut chunks of it away, but little teeny fragments, it was taking forever. So basically what I've had to do is I've had to knuckle down and buy a new extruder, which I hate. I'm dead in the water with my 3D printer. I have to wait about a week and a half for it to be delivered. It's still not here yet. I'm hoping it'll be delivered in the next few days over the Christmas holidays, and I'll be able to fix it and get back to my important project that I'm really anxious to share with you. So what does this mean? What it means is I do have a project for you this week, but it's going to be something that you've already, it's a variation of something you've already seen, and it comes from one of my commenters for the video for this wrought iron fence. Said, hey, make a gate. And you know what? The 3D printer bailed on me and I needed a project for you guys. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to make a wrought iron gate. Let me show you what it looks like. Here it is right here. I don't know if you can see that against my shirt. It's got a spiked entryway here. I've got chains. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got chains holding it closed so it can open and close. Small column, tall column, tall column, small column. It's very similar. If you watched the video on how to make this is not that difficult. The only difference was the gate is a little different, and I made smaller pieces here. So, and also I glued a piece of plastic on the bottom to give it some to make it all one piece, but also so that you can, when you put it on the board, the gate will open, but you won't have like a stepping stone here to have to move over. So anyway, there it is. I'm really happy with it. The only thing I wish I had done different was I was kind of under a time crunch here to make this, so I used hot glue. The hot glue's okay, but if you have the time, do this with like tacky glue and just let it dry. I wish I'd have taken an extra day or two, and because I've got little clumps and I don't like them. They're not bad, and I painted over them and they're sort of hard to spot, but up close you can see them, and I just kind of wish I had taken a little more time or had a little more time to do this with tacky glue instead of hot glue. But anyway, let's get to the video and I'm going to show you how this is made and the variations I made from the fence to this. Let's take a look. Okay, for the gate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two of the standard columns that I showed you how to make in a previous video. This time, however, I'm going to make two more columns. They're going to be slightly taller than these. How tall? We're not going to cut the 1/2 inch off of the first cut. I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you'll remember, I said to set the fence to the width of the 1/2 inch foam, which is right here, okay? And then you cut off a 2-inch piece like that. I'm gonna do this twice because I'm making 2 columns, okay? Now in the first video, I had you run this through and cut off a 1/2 inch. We're not gonna do that this time. So what we're gonna do instead is we're going to do the thing we always do. We're gonna rotate the piece all the way around the wire to make this cut that goes all the way around. And then we're gonna do it on the other side, just flip it over. Okay, oops, that's okay. That'll make it look a little more realistic. There's one. Just flip the piece over and do it again. Now here's where you're gonna have to eyeball it unless you really just want to measure it. I do not care about accuracy. I'm just going to try to eyeball this in the middle, set my fence, and then I'll just do the same thing all the way around the middle piece. So there. And 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, there are my columns. And then the rest of it is just exactly the same. The bases and the little piece inside are going to be the exact same size. The columns are made and glued together. I haven't painted them yet, obviously. You can see that these two are slightly taller than the outside ones. That's by choice. This is going to frame a gate that's going to be mounted inside. What I'm going to do right now is I need to cut more mesh to make 2 pieces that are going to go in here. They need to be identical in size and length so it looks symmetrical. So I'll get that done next. While the paint is drying on the columns, I went ahead and cut out the 2 smaller pieces of wrought iron that will be between the small column and the tall column. But between the 2 tall columns, I want to have a wrought iron gate that opens double doors. So the idea would be to basically cut out the shape of the gate first. And then after I get it all, cut and like this, then cut it in half. I'm also going to have to find a way to attach it to the columns so that the 2 doors can open, or the wrought iron gate can open. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to experiment. If this doesn't work, I can always do, I've got plenty here. If this is the width of the little piece, I think it would look double that. I think that would be a good size gate. Here's a mini, so that gate's pretty wide. That's 15 feet wide if I do 3 inches. So because this is about 1.5 inches right there. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just cut a piece 3 inches, and I'll make a mark here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'll cut on this side of it, and the columns were, let's see, it was 2 inches plus 3/8 and 3/8. 6/8, almost 3 inches. So let's just go 1, 2, 3, and we'll cut here. And then I need to find that. There it is. So I'll cut over a little bit. Where's that mark? There it is. Was that right? 1, 2, 3. Should be right there. Yeah. All right. So I'll cut on this side. There we go. To make this gate symmetrical, I want to make sure I've got it, make sure it looks the same on both sides. So I'm cutting off this and I'm trimming this down so I have this solid border around it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 holes, which means if I cut it on the 10, or actually if I cut it on the 9 and the 9, I'll lose a little bit, but that way I can make sure that they are the same height and they fit together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to do this. I'm going to cut like this. So I'm keeping that border, okay? And then I want to cut over 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I want to cut on this side. So I keep that border. The border actually gives it a little more rigidity, so that's one of the reasons I'm doing this. So now I've got, they're identical. See that? All right, and they are a little taller than the gate, so I'm going to trim. Actually, you know what? That may be okay. You know what? I want it to go above the gate. I'm fine with that. Here's what I'm going to do. I thought it would be interesting. You know, you have the two columns here. I thought it would be interesting to have them go to a peak, and not a round. I'm going to do a, a sort of a peak like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm always cutting on the inside, and I'm going to cut to that corner like that. And on this one, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and cut to that corner. Like that. And there's the peak, okay? Now, it doesn't look like a wrought iron gate, right? So I've got to start cutting out pieces. I think what I'm going to do is at the top, at the very top of the gate, I want spikes, right? And so I think what I'll do is I'll stay with that 4th line right there, and I'll just leave. Let's see, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll look perfect. So I'll leave the front one right there. So 1, 2, 3, and I'll go down 4. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. All right, so let's see what this looks like. All right, so if I want to go down to the 4th, which is this one right here, I want to go cut, cut, cut. And I want to go cut, cut, cut. All right, then I'll cut here like that. Okay, there's one gone. And then I need to go to the other one, which will be 3 cuts. 1, 2, 3. Cut down to the line. There we go. See what I'm going for here? All right, so then I'm going to skip this one. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, and then cut here. Boom, gone. Just one cut here. 1, 1, boom. And then this little one will go off. All right, so there I go. I've got this nice start of a spike there. So let's see if I can repeat this. All right, so far I'm happy with it. Using these spikes, I want to leave those lines. I don't want to mess with those. So what I'm going to do is start cutting the holes. So if you're wondering how I am going to secure the gates to the columns, I have an answer for that. I am going to be using these things called Eyepins. Let me show you what they look like. Can you see that? Small piece of metal with a hook on the end. I bought a bag of like 100 of these. Let me see what it was, 120, and it was like $3 or $4. And these will last a long time. I use them to secure chain. I made a column a while back, and I'll post a link to that video. And I use these to secure the chain in the column. So what I'm going to do this time around is I'm going to stick them into the column, and they're going to act as a swivel for the gate. And I may find that I need 3. I just haven't decided yet. All right, I have the gates mounted, and what I've done is I've cut a piece, I don't know if you can see this, piece of plastic. This is going to be glued on the bottom, basically so I can just, these things need to be stable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue this one on first with some hot glue, and then what I'll do is I'll match up the gates and then glue on the other ones so that they're spaced properly. For the final bit, for the final touch, I'm going to seal the 2 gates with a little bit of chain. So all I gotta do is cut me a couple lengths of this. There you go. That is how you can make this wrought iron gateway entrance with doors that actually open and close, or gates that actually open and close. As you can see, it's got this plastic piece here in the middle that keeps this half and this half, together as one piece. And of course, the paint scheme and the wrought iron was done to match this. I'm making a bunch of these, so I'll be able to, just spread these around. I guess technically what I should do is break that one off and glue this together if I wanted to make a corner. But very happy with it. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. The gate, looks like a gate. It's got that wrought iron look to it. It opens and closes, which is nice. But it didn't take long to make this. I think total time on this was about hour and a half. Definitely learned from making this. Got faster at cutting the wrought iron, the granny grating stuff. And of course, making the columns now, I can just zip through those with a Proxxon. But again, if you don't have a Proxxon, these columns can be cut with a knife, no problem. And of course, the little chain in front here to give it, the locked gate. So anyway, I hope you like this, and if you decide to make one, I hope you'll share it with me, and I will see you in the next episode.